about this talk about writing and copywriting, as the case may be. Um, Writing is the written text, as we all know. Writing is the man from the beginning trying to express himself through folk stories, through oral tradition, and which eventually evolved into what is seen today as your works of fiction, of poetry, of drama, as it were, or your diary that you keep on your own. It's a form of writing, and it is that wide, and it's not just limited to the written, text, as you see in some of these classics that are shown here. It also goes into music. I call this line more like the two fellas and the lady. So there's Fela, the one that we know on your left, Fela Kuti, and there's Fela Showande, who wrote some very good piece of classical music and all that from in Nigeria way back in the 60s and 70s. And of course, there is Asha. So whichever age, whichever genre of music, it evolves, it evolves the same kind of writing that goes into producing those classics and what we do even in the present day. So for me, what I'll be doing in the course of this conversation is also, trying to stand on the shoulders of giants as much as I can. A lot of quotes from the world of literature or from the world of advertising and what have you out there. So we see a couple of quotes that are meant to help us, understand the topic a little better. So this is from E.B. White, and it says, writing is an act of faith, not a trick of grammar. Because people can get taken in by, just, the beauty of the words, how big the grammar is. There's a gentleman called Patrick Oba, whatever, in Benin, who likes to, come up with all sorts of big sounding words. Unfortunately, he's also meant to be communicating to people. End of the day, what does he do? He talks above their heads. I'm not sure that he gets the message across the top. But that is not what we're about. This is listen to Aristotle and what he says. He says, to write well, express yourself like the common people. Just bear that in mind. Express yourself like the common people, but think like a wise man. So in other words, it's about expression. It's also about thinking. It's about imagination. But think like the common, because you need to communicate to the people. So irrespective of what we call ourselves today, I'm a web designer, I'm a content whatever, I'm a copywriter, I'm a this and that. The essence of it remains that we want to express ourselves in a way that the common people will get us, because we express ourselves like them, but we think like a wise man. We think in a way that will leave them with something to go home with. George Orwell, we all know George Orwell, the writer of 1984, Animal Farm. Says if people cannot write well, they cannot think well. And if they cannot think well, others will do their thinking for them. And just think about that. Think about where we are today. If you don't, look at this as a responsibility, that, this opportunity for me to sit behind this laptop and get some things out there, if I don't seize it as an opportunity, as a responsibility rather, I'm going to lose the power to the people, because that responsibility is about power. Every one of us here, we have the power to communicate with people, to influence their thinking, to shape their decisions. And that is what we do. And if we don't do that, they will seize it from us, because we're going to talk about that down the line. What has changed between back then, 60s, 70s, 90s, and where we are today. So at the end of the day, my conclusion on this matter is this, that good writing is defined by its form and content. Any form of writing, be it Wole Soyinka's Death and the King's Horseman, Things Fall Apart, Julius Caesar, whatever book out there, or perhaps, the best of music, it is all coming from what it's about, form being the way it is written. Content is the subject matter, what it is all about, right? Today, it's interesting that, content has taken a different meaning, or I'm a content producer, I'm a whatever, but it is okay, it's the same thing, it's a skillful blend of imagination. So we expect you, back to Aristotle, that there's thinking in it, and there is also the power of expression. So So is writing in general, or literary writing in this case, the same as writing for advertising? I'm quoting from Virginia Woolf, and she has something to say. And this is something true for anybody who is into literary writing or any other form of writing, except advertising and what we do. It says, so long as you write what you wish to write, that is all that matters. And whether it matters for ages or only for hours, nobody can say. But guess what? If Virginia Woolf were to apply for a job in Noah's Ark or anywhere today, sadly, I'm not sure she will stay there for too long, or she may not even get a job. Because the reality is that we must write if we have to listen to Maya Angelou, so that people can hear it and it slides through their brain and goes straight to the heart. That is what this is about. We must write in a way that they get it. They can understand what it is. It occupies a space in their minds and also in their hearts, as the case may be, so they can reason it out. That is what we do. If we are not doing that as advertising people or whatever it is just a waste of opportunities. And that's what Seth Godin says, that why waste a sentence saying nothing? It's not, I mean, every ad, I mean, I'm quoting Charles Saatchi now. It says every ad, and you can take that to mean any other thing that you do. It says every ad is an opportunity. Just think about that. You place an ad in The Guardian, or you probably post, something on your page. For that moment you've done it, it's gone. Even though digital space allows for you to revise yourself, and I'm going back to it. No, not so, in the good old days of just using the newspapers or the TV. You've done it, and I always ask people this question. An average newspaper full page ad color probably will cost nothing less than 500,000 naira. Question is this: how many people start out their careers earning 500,000 naira a month? So what you've been given is an opportunity to do something that is bigger than what you earn. So what are you going to do about it? What will you do with it? So let's talk about copy. Copy is a very interesting field. And copy, is simply defined as any piece of writing, text, that anything you put down, right? That is aimed at promoting a brand or a cause or an opinion. And it might come in the form of print, TV, radio, out of home, digital, whatever you do, your post, your SEO, promotion, your tweets, or whatever it is. That for me will still form part of copy, because we've written it. The aim is to promote something. As long as you're trying to promote something, there is an identified sponsor. There's a client paying for it. So it doesn't matter whether I'm the old school copywriter just banging on my laptop, or the new whiskey that is, sharing a post or whatever it is. There is a client somewhere there who is expecting to get something in return, right? So for that reason, it all, will fall within the, gambit of copy. And copywriting, like someone said, is salesmanship in writing, because we're selling something, we're promoting an idea, and every salesman, if you must look at it from that point of view, knows that the first few seconds are very important. Before advertising came about, salesmen used to go from door to door, knocking on doors, and they'll tell you, I've got this, new set of pants to sell. And people can shut the door in your face if you don't really engage them well enough. Now, we may not go door to door anymore, but our writing, our post, our whatever it is that we do now, is going to be subjected to that kind of treatment. And we have just a few seconds to sell what we have to sell before somebody shuts the door in our face. Or they probably just click for the next page outside of what we're doing. So, this is Bill Bernbach, and those of us who follow advertising, we know that Bill Bernbach is one of the B's in DBB. Sorry, the B rather in DDB. This is Bill Bernbach. It says the purpose of advertising is to sell. So back to salesmanship. That is what the client is paying for. And if that goal does not permeate every idea you get, every word you write, every picture you take, you are a phony and you ought to get out of this business. And that's what he says. I mean, brutal as it sounds, but that's the reality. The client is not paying so that I can show how poetic my writing can be, how much of a photographer I am, how good I am with lighting, how good I am with, spinning words and stuff like that. No, the client is paying so that he can, sell off whatever he has imported from China and get the new consignment in good time. That is why the client is, but I must do it in a way that will get the client to have an edge over competitors. That is why we're in business. That has never changed, and it will not change. So the aim is to interest. So this is your role and everybody's role. The aim is to interest, excite, more so in today's world, right? And we'll talk more about what is happening today. The aim is to interest, to excite, persuade, and convince the audience. Look at it. You have to persuade them, right? Because they have the power to shut the door in our face or click and go to the next page. So we have to be able to interest, excite, persuade, and convince them. Because if they're not convinced, they're not going to take any action. We have to convince that audience or the target, as the case may be, to think different and act in favor of our brand or whatever it is that we're trying to promote. That is the job that we have. So together with other members of the team, be it the art directors, the account managers, the planners, or whoever else that you're working with, today also with the technology guys and your web guys and whatever guys that you have, the copywriter acts as an advocate for the brand. And I like to see our job as that of the advocate. We speak for the brand because the brand can go from door to door, but somebody needs to make a case for the brand in the best possible ways. And what do advocates do? They look at you, they look at what you've got, and they think of how best to use what you have to win the hearts of people. And one good example of that is this classic ad from this good old Bill Bernbach from DDB days, the 60s. And what he says about Avis says, when you are number two, when you're only number two, you try harder or else. That when you are only number two, you try harder or else. Just imagine that. Because what it did was to play to honesty. Avis came at a time when there was a leading market leader in the name of Hertz the car rental. And Avis was a distant number two in the real sense of it. But it needed to find a way of making Avis, number two brand in the minds of the audience. Remember, about the audience says, when you are only number two, you try harder. He's being sincere with himself. And that's what a good, copywriter or whoever the communicator is should do. Look at the situation of your brand and look at how best to speak on its behalf. A more recent one would be the one done for Burger King, which is knocking competition in a way that promotes, their own brand. So come as a clown. We all know who the clown is, Ralph McDonald from McDonald's, and eat like a king. This was for their Halloween night, rather. I said Halloween night for Burger King. And there's a whole lot of stuff that it's just a print ad. They had a series of activations. They had a lot of stuff they did online and that promoted this thing about coming as a clown and eating like a king. So copy as we know it. This is the rule, if there's any rule at all. But rules, again, are to be known, to be mastered, and sometimes you have to break them if you can get away with them. So copy is fundamentally made up of the headline, the body copy, and the payoff line, or the tagline, or the slogan, as the case may be. And we'll see samples of these along the line. I don't think my task would be to go into the details of what makes a great headline, the body copy. I mean, that is a different conversation entirely. So we don't, divert from what we want to achieve today. But in terms of breaking it down, this is what you expect from, any good copy. There's a headline, body copy, payoff line. And if you know the rules very well, you know how to break them and get away with them. David Ogilvy, the father of advertising, like people call him, today's Ogilvy agency. He says, on the average, 5 times as many people read the headline as read the body copy. And when you have written your headline, you have spent 80 cents out of your dollar. In other words, 80 cents out of the $1 that you're spending on that ad, will be well spent when you get the headline right. Now, this was way back then when they had the headline body copy, that long copy. And I think David Ogilvy's rule, in a way, still persists in terms of what has happened to where we are now, where you tend to see more of the visual and a headline and less of body copy as well, because 80 cents of the $1 is already spent in the headline. And we'll see more examples of that as we go along. Now, still coming from David Ogilvy's school of thought, you cannot write copy unless you know these three very important things. Who you are writing it for. Remember what I said earlier about knowing your audience. How that person thinks. So we need to know what drives them, what motivates them. What that person needs is very crucial. What are their needs? A good way of summing that up is to say, what is the communication task? If I don't know what the communication task is, I'll just be going round and round and round, and nothing good will come out of it. So David Abbott is one of those greats as well. Like I said, I'm reading a lot of things from these guys. David Abbott is the A in AMV BBDO London. AMV is Abbott Meet AMV, yeah, Abbott Meet VCAC. Now says that I spend a lot of time fact finding back to. So it's not just for those who work with planners, it's not just to leave things to your account planner, the research guy, the guys who do the research and the interaction with the target. It says I spend a lot of time fact finding, and I don't start writing until I have too much to say. Mark what he says, too much to say, so you can now start looking at what really matters. I don't believe you can write fluent copy if you have to interrupt yourself with research. Dig first, then write. So you need to know. And today's world allows you to know a lot more. You can go online. What do we know about the audience? What do we know about what motivates? There'll be some, freak information somewhere that nobody was even thinking about that might just come in handy and make a difference in what you're doing. So in my opinion, almost everyone can write copy, but not everyone can write copy that breaks through clutter. And that's the reality. And that is our task. Because as John Hegarty says, so the unpredictability is what makes what we do in advertising so exciting. The fact that we're unpredictable. You literally don't know where you're going to end up, which is true. I mean, you start from something and it leads to somewhere else. Almost like you going back to doing mind mapping. You start from one element and it takes you to all sorts of directions, right? So you don't know exactly where you're going to end up from where you started. Creativity isn't about predictability. So isn't about predictability. It has to surprise and challenge. It has to be daring and yet motivating. Very important words. It must not be predictable. It must surprise. It must challenge us. It has to be daring, yet it has to be motivating. But give me reasons to want to believe in this. In other words, when the world is zigging, you have to zag. You have to be different, irrespective of where you're playing. Because let's get it right. Whatever it is that you're doing today, what we have seen today is an expansion, or rather an explosion of channels of communication. What we do is not anywhere different from what Hegarty talked about. That must still be the rule. Otherwise, we fall into a very big trap, and you don't want to be there. So, an example of what makes for copy, that is the headline. If these shoes could talk, they will never stop talking. I mean, that is really exciting and intriguing. Guess what? These are not just any ordinary shoes. These are Muhammad Ali's shoes. And you know what we know about Muhammad Ali? He could talk. I sting like a bee, I fly like a butterfly, and all those things. I'm the greatest. So this is for Kiwi, by the way, for Kiwi, the shoe polish. It says, if these shoes could talk, they will never stop talking. And there's a tagline, there's a payoff line somewhere there as well. And this is an example of long copy. And it's really about zigging and zagging, if you ask me. You know why? Long copy used to be the trend way back, at the beginning, the 60s and what have you. And at some point, they all kind of vanished because people don't have time for long copy. So we think. But guess what? This was done in 2019, last year, for Kiwi. It's long copy. And it was so good. It was a whole campaign. There was one for Abraham Lincoln and a couple of other people. It actually won at Cannes as well. So it's a case of, of zagging when people are zigging. So I'm going back to vintage ads here. This is again from Bill Bemberg. Think small for Volkswagen. At a time when America was all about big cars that guzzled us a lot of fuel. And Bemberg came, and it was also, sometime after the Second World War, imagine. And you're selling a German car to Americans who believed in big, monstrous cars. And he was selling Volkswagen, and it was about thinking small for an A that was about doing things big. It was unique, and it marked the beginning of the golden age of advertising. It was a big revolution from Bill Bemberg, and it was different because nobody was thinking like this. Now, I talked about knowing the rules and breaking the rules or bending the rules, as the case may be. One of the rules from Ogilvy, Ogilvy, was that there must be, of course, there must be the headline, but beyond the headline, Ogilvy also came up with all sorts of rules. Some of them you agree, some of them you disagree. And this is Charles Saatchi disagreeing with Ogilvy. Ogilvy was all about, you cannot write in reverse. But this is what Charles Saatchi did, doing this for a campaign, a sensitization campaign for sanitation, for hygiene. It's about flies landing on your food. And he thought the best way to do that was to make it even revolting from just reading it and from the way it is presented. Says this is what happens when a fly lands on your food. Flies can't eat solid food. So to soften it up, they vomit on it. Then they stamp this vomit in until it's liquid, usually stamping in a few gems for good measure. Then when it's good and running, they suck it all back again, probably dropping some excrement at the same time. And then when they are finished eating, it's your turn. Now, there's nobody on earth who will read this and would like to leave their plate on cover. It says, so cover food, cover eating and drinking utensils, cover dustbins. It was so gripping, and it broke the rules for a good reason. That is what good advertising, good communication should do. From the same, Saatchi and Saatchi people. So would you be more careful if it was you that got pregnant? It was about a pregnant man. This, before the age of things going viral, this went viral. And it was interpreted in so many other languages around the world. It was pushing, family planning issues, that if men could be a bit more caring and feel for women when they're pregnant, maybe then they will cooperate with their wives when it came to matters of family planning. Quite interesting stuff. From David Abbott, I never read The Economist. And how can you be a management trainee at age 42? But that's the quote this is about. And it was taking the masthead of The Economist magazine. And this has been around for over 30 or 35 years, I must tell you. And it's still running. It was started by David Abbott. This is this is the power of good advertising. We all know the man called David Droga. Droga did this for Saatchi and Saatchi in Singapore. Fairy fries for Burger King. We know what this is. And he was pushing a spicy, real fairy, what's it called? Chips. And it's been made to look like, you can see, a matchstick. So that's what grabs us. Still in the world of fast food. This was something that happened, I think, a year ago or thereabout, or so. KFC in the UK ran out of chicken. And it was a big thing, so big that they had to shut down their outlets. And their agency, Mother, in the UK, had to come up with an ad to explain things and reassure people that they were back. And this was what came to their mind. I mean, when you read this, what do you think, really? You say, fuck, we're sorry. But that is also uttering KFC as we know it, but it's so powerful. It grabs our attention. So that in itself is what our job is, to be able to observe things and make a difference. And this went, like wildfire online. So it's not just, now, you can see again when we talk about the lines, blurring. So yet it ran in the papers, but his life was beyond the papers. It had a bigger life, out there online. And that's where we are today. This is from our agency, Noazak, and we just saw an opportunity some years back when you had this Oscar thing where there were no people of color in the nominations. And there was a hashtag, Oscar so white, if you can remember. And we thought that since we work for a brand called Hypo, and it's for whitening your clothes, why not take that as an opportunity to do something exciting? And we came up with this, no headline, no body copy, but there is something that looks like, where's the headline of sorts? Looks like a payoff line, but if there's any headline, that's the only thing that we have. They say for whites only, and that's Hypo. And it went like wildfire as well, locally and internationally. It actually even got, what's it called? Some guys who run a gallery of posters in New York asked for copies of this, and it got exhibited there. It's there in their keeps. We also did this for Oriental fried noodles for Indomie, using culture. It's about tasting something different. And we couldn't think of any other way to do that, but to go back into artifacts and look how we can use that to sell noodles. It's not just about copy. It also goes to TV. And I have 1 or 2 TV comments. I hope it plays well. These days, playing video online through video chats can be a bit jerky. Just bear with me. I hope this works for you.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Great ad, I must tell you. It's timeless. I never stop using this. And if you ever needed a mantra for your career, whatever you do, even if you are the tech guy or whatever, this is the mantra. Because really, like it says, and if you know the context of this was the ad that was run to reintroduce Apple. After Steve Jobs had left Apple and had to come back, he was called back to run the company again. And they were going to launch a new, the iMac and the rest of them. This was the ad that launched it. It was celebrating genius. The people who actually make a difference, those who people think are crazy. They're crazy enough that they think they can change the world, but in reality, they change the world in your own little corner. And this should be the thing that should motivate you for what you do. I hope you get this commercial. I love the commercial. It's an old ad for Alka-Seltzer. Was quite interesting, and it speaks to the power of visuals and also what the line can do in this. I will just play it right away.
Alka-Seltzer. When you've eaten something you shouldn't have.
I'm not sure if you got it, but if you did, I'm sure you'll be chuckling to yourself. Remember at the beginning of that commercial, there were 2 people there. We ended up with 1 person. So what happened to the other guy? So now the line makes sense. When you've eaten what you shouldn't, you need Alka-Seltzer to push it out. Quite interesting. That's the power that we wield as creative people. This I'm sure you know, but I think it makes sense to. It's about zigging. It's about zagging when the world is zigging, and we all know what happened to telcos. And when we were supposed to have the disadvantage of one telco not having a 4G when others did. But again, it's back to knowing your brand, knowing the people you're talking to, knowing their need. The need in this case was, yes, there was 4G on the other networks, but the data was not necessarily up to par. But there's this network that has a 3G, but the data works. So why not play up on that? And why not do it in a way back to Aristotle and back to Michelangelo, speak to their heart as well as their heads. And that's what we did for Airtel. Let me just play this again for those. I'm sure you see it.
There's a situation, everybody's speculating. They say, what have we done to this system changing? Father, hear us, cause we trust the failed us. They say, look to the Lord for salvation and He shall redeem you. Lord, I'm getting frustrated. Yes, I'm losing my patience. I've been waiting for so long. Just to see, this is who we are. It's our reality. It's our reality now. This is who we are. It's our reality. It's our reality.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
And since then, the brand has not stopped. I mean, that's the beauty of good thinking.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back at your man. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me. Look down. Back up. Where are you? You're on a boat with the man your man could smell. What's in your hand? Back at me. I have an oyster with 2 tickets to the thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamond. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I'm on a horse.
I mean, the beauty of this commercial also is the fact that when everybody thought Old Spice was done, it brought the brand back to life, and it started a conversation that is continuing to work stronger. That particular commercial, apart from that, I mean, one of the things, the beauty of it is that, again, back to where the lines are blurring, is I recall there was a particular time, and they had an engagement online where they brought this same guy back, and people were tweeting to ask for certain things. And he was acting in real time, and so they made over 100 or so such mini commercials online. That is so. There's actually no need for a line if you ask me. What is important is the power of the thinking, the power of the idea, and how far you want to take it. We have a mantra that guides us at Noah's Ark. We say we go wherever the idea takes us, and I think that should be the guiding thing for anybody in our business today, wherever you find yourself. So, again, what's all this talk about writing? Or copywriting, as the case may be. And back to Hegarty. He says, obsessing about one medium versus another is a waste of energy. So think about that. It is the cultivation and management of ideas and the people who generate them that is the crucial factor. And that's the point I was just trying to make now. It's about the idea, the supremacy of the idea. It's about knowing who you're talking to, thinking of what can move people enough and finding the right space to get them. In my TBWA days, there was something called a connection. And connection was what? Connection was anything between the brand and the target, the audience. Anything is game, anything is media, anything that it might just be the shopping bag or, even the title, the name of your handle, may just be all that I need to get you interested in me. Anything is connection. It's as wide as your mind can go. And what are you trying to achieve? There's one, if you've seen the Bohemian Rhapsody, this might just tell you exactly what we're trying to achieve. I'm going to just play a little bit of it. I'm not going to play the entire thing. This is what we're trying to do.
Stand to this beat. Come on. Now, I want you to clap on the third beat. What's going on? You know if you're on time. I want to give the audience a song that they can perform. So what can they do? Imagine thousands of people doing this in unison. Huh? Well, what's the lyric?
So this is what it's about. Can your work make them sing back? Can your work make them clap back? If we're not doing that, like one of the guys said as well, I think I'll give you or back. It's like a wink in the dark. Only you know you're winking. It becomes a waste. So this is what we're about. And I think where you are today, the position you guys occupy actually gives you a bigger platform to get them to sing back, to clap back. And that is very crucial. Otherwise, this is what we are. This is what we are dealing with. And this is the reality. And that's why you have to take this very important. I'm quoting this from a guy that was featured in the archive. There was a digital, there was an interview section for the digital part of the archive. I'm sure you all know the archive, Losers Archive. And this is a long quote, but I've taken the entire thing because I think it's very crucial to what we're discussing. Since digital, more rubbish has been thrown at us. And think about it. The struggle then was that, oh, digital was going to take a while to take over whatever it was. It was only 10%, 20%, it was 40%. But now with COVID-19, you guys know, it's gone through the roofs. And so it means that, this problem is even more magnified today. Since digital, more rubbish has been thrown at us. The fight for attention has become bigger than even before. With every post, tag, share, etc., more competition is out there. Brands are competing with culture. Mark that. Not only with brands. So the competition is wider. And everything in culture is craving for attention. Brands have to be more disruptive than ever before. Otherwise, you get skipped in the blink of an eye. Or what? People tell you what they think of you, and the world can read it. So now they have the power. It's a two-way thing now. It is not the good old days of I run an ad and I don't care what people think or say. I run the next ad. Now they will tell me right there and then what they think about me. And you don't want to know what they think about you. If you do it well, they will praise you. If you do otherwise, you get a flag. So if you're still wondering what copywriting has got to do with you, let's go. This is what you do. So even if all you do, right, is manage the Twitter page of your brand, this is from Starbucks. I mean, they could have just told anybody who got iced coffee. Wouldn't that be enough? But this was somebody who says the days of the week. Iced coffee day, 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 Friday, iced coffee day. I mean, that excites me. And guess what? I can share that. I can love it. I can retweet it. I can write back. They can clap back. They can sing back to me. As minute, as mundane as this. This is what your job requires of you. So if you're not thinking about this, if you're not thinking different, like Apple says we should, then you have to start thinking different from now. Let's look at this. I found this very interesting, but you have to appreciate this more on your phone, maybe after this session. A gross kind of topic is about poop, but scientists need your poop. So now, how can they grab my attention? It says, we dare you to give a shit for science. That's what they say. I mean, that is the same good old thing that all those guys did in writing the lines for the print ads of KFC saying FCK, or the other things that we talked about. It's the same motive. Grab their attention, excite them, motivate them, and see where that takes you. Think about this. This is something done for this is for Oreos. I'm not sure how many of us remember there was this Super Bowl thing where they had a blackout. And if you have not tuned your mind to accepting the fact that I occupy a very important place here, the fact that I'm not a traditional copywriter doesn't mean that I cannot think and express myself. Because remember what I said at the beginning, it's about imagination and expression, giving a powerful blend. Then you will not be ready for this. Somebody said there's nothing like luck. It's always about opportunity meeting preparation. And that was what happened with Oreos. I'll think about this and see how it happened. Sorry, let me just go back. I mean, amazing stuff. It's just saying because, I mean, people have the habit of dunking their Oreos into milk or whatever it is that they drink their beverage and say, yeah. And if you look at that, I always tell people this, that is actually an expression or illustration of the Yoruba proverb. No matter how dark it is, right? No matter how dark your environment, your surrounding is, you, the owner of the mouth, you will never miss the direction of your mouth. You will know the way to it, right? So it's the same thing. So it may be dark, it might be a blackout, but you know what? It's still a good time for Oreos. But see what it did to them. I mean, what it did for the brand and the fact that they were ready for it. It's just one tweet and see where that one tweet got them without paying anything beyond just posting it. So that's what we're dealing with. I found this very interesting. It was done, I think, in Holland for a funeral insurance service. It was quite interesting. But that's what is demanded of you today. You are the one at the frontier of these new platforms, new channels. But what are you going to do with it? See what these guys did with this particular brand.
The most beautiful words are often spoken when someone has passed away. Such a shame, because the person they talk about can no longer hear them. For the funeral insurance company Dela, we came up with an idea. Why wait until it's too late? Say something wonderful today. We gave people the opportunity to say something wonderful to someone they really care about, and they were completely taken by surprise. We filmed speeches with hidden cameras and created some extraordinary commercials with real people. No ads on it. Yeah.
Ik wil terugvragen aan de ouders die hier zitten. Bedankt mama en pap dat jullie je leven en je handen hebben achtergelaten voor mij. Om mij een leven te kunnen bieden waar ik altijd van heb gedroomd. Waarvan ik nooit had gedacht dat het werkelijkheid zou worden. Ik wil jullie heel erg bedanken voor jullie moed en jullie doorzettingsvermogen. En voor alles wat jullie voor mij hebben gedaan.
Maar ik wil je bedanken voor de mooie jaren. En dat niet alleen. Ik ben nu een aantal maanden getrouwd en je hebt me enorm geholpen met klussen. Eigenlijk sta je altijd voor me klaar. Maar ik zeg het niet vaak en ik hou van je.
Je bent super zo in moeilijke tijden en in gewone tijden. Dankjewel, lieve jongen.
Then we gave everyone in Holland the chance to show their love and affection. We made ads with just the word dear. You were invited to fill in the rest yourself. The people of the Netherlands made immense use of this opportunity and uploaded their beautiful words to our special website. You could also share your words via the website or via Facebook. But we went further. From the written ads, we made posters for outdoor. Each poster was unique and was displayed in the area where the person it was meant for lived. And we went even further. On New Year's Eve, we gave people the chance to express their love live on TV. A wave of beautiful words swept over Holland, and we got the message across. It was picked up, talked about, and acted on. And the result? Dela captured a place in the list of top 10 best-known brands in Holland, and the amount of insured capital grew by 50%. But the best result is that Holland grew a bit more beautiful. Why wait until it's too late? Say something wonderful today. Dela, for each other.
And again, I mean, there are no lines. I mean, you can see the convergence of ideas, of execution. It's just one thinking, one idea. And from one thought, a couple of things came up. It's on the website, it's on outdoor, it's on whatever. And that's how you should think today. Don't limit yourself. And I think that's the danger with people thinking, oh, I only wear this particular hat. Don't limit yourself, because when you limit yourself, you are not doing the best for the brand in question. Even if you don't have the discipline to do whatever it is that you need to do, find partners, find collaborators. But that's where the world is today. I find this very relevant to our Nigerian situation. I hope you will love it as well. This is from Brazil, and it's the power of smart thinking and the role that we all have to play in that regard. It's something to do with, I think you should see it first.
Brasilia, Brazil's federal capital. Every week, 600 Congress members fly there from their hometowns and then back again. Almost 5,000 plane tickets a month, all financed by taxpayers' money. But guess who gets to keep the air miles? Politicians, of course. While thousands of Brazilians miss crucial trips because they can't afford them, it's time to change that. Miles for the People, by Aclame Aqui.
Uma campanha na rede social pressiona parlamentares.
Reverte para a população as milhas acumuladas em voos feitos por políticos com dinheiro público.
We tracked all elected officials' flight expenses, converting them to air miles. On a mobile platform, we displayed this absurdity, inviting people to ask for what's rightfully theirs. Then we went after the politicians, politely asking them to return the people's miles. None of them did. So we encouraged people to pressure them through their social media.
Encha o saco.
It spread like wildfire.
O senhor vai devolver as viagens que nós pagamos aí, que o senhor usa depois para fazer de férias?
Estão comprando as passagens com o nosso dinheiro e querem ficar com as nossas milhas.
The project was brought to the congressional floor.
Já que a gente utiliza as passagens aéreas do dinheiro público, nada mais coerente que a gente devolva essas milhas.
E essa casa pode dar um belo exemplo se todos nós abraçarmos essa causa.
We left politicians no choice but to give back their air miles.
Gostaria de agradecer ao deputado aos homens por ter devolvido as milhas do povo.
Quando eu conseguir resgatar essas milhas, eu pude dar continuidade no meu acompanhamento.
Miles for the People is even forcing a change in the law. Soon, every air mile bought with taxpayers' money will go back to the rightful owners. Miles for the People. Taxpayers' flights. Taxpayers' miles.
Quite interesting. I wish we could apply that to Nigeria. But that's the power that we hold, and the thinking, and the fact that we can influence society.
Taboos are a way of life in Nigeria. Taboos surrounding the traditional roles of men in relationships with their partners are even more prevalent. For instance, while it's commonplace for ladies to wash their men's underwear, it's considered abominable for a man to be seen washing his partner's underwear.
No, I can't do that.
Why is that?
It's not normal. It's a personal taboo. Then why should I be carrying the watching his wife on this? That is your problem.
That's why Hypo, Nigerian's leading bleach brand and a tireless advocate for questioning stereotypes, decided to make the Valentine's season more intimate by breaking yet another stereotype with the hashtag Pure Love Challenge. 1 week before Valentine's Day, a video showing a young man washing his partner's underwear and then challenging other men to do the same was posted online. The video, which was driven with the hashtag Pure Love Challenge, initially had no connection to the brand, a deliberate attempt to ensure organic growth in conversations. Within 24 hours of the release, the video gained 250,000 views on Instagram, with men all over taking up the challenge and posting videos of their own. Hashtag Pure Love Challenge became the most talked about topic amongst influencers, discussion forums, and across social media. As hashtag Pure Love Challenge reached its climax on the eve of Valentine's Day, the Hypo brand revealed itself as the brain behind the original trending video by releasing the complete version, which showcased Hypo bleaching use and other materials to support the campaign. On Facebook, the campaign reached 118,882 people with over 2,000 comments and 40 views, all earned organically. More so, conversation grew 41 million impressions on Twitter, making hashtag Pure Love Challenge the #1 trending topic on Valentine's Day in Nigeria, and proving that where pure love exists, taboos don't. Or do they?
I mean, that's part of what this is about. The fact that we can look around us. And we, like I said earlier, we are the advocates of the brand. And what you guys offer us is a bigger space to push as much as we can. It's really interesting to know that the client did not brief us to do that. We came up with that thinking, seeing ourselves as the advocates of the brand, and that we can challenge situations. We can make a product mean more than whatever the product category says. Bleach is the most boring thing you can think of. But think about what we're doing with that, and that's what you can do. So don't limit yourself, like I said earlier. Think through it and see what is out there, see what you can do. I'm going to play the next one. I'm sure you've seen it. And what is interesting about this is the fact that, yes, we started out from playing big on traditional media and all that. But we came to a realization that, look, as a matter of fact, for most of the Airtel campaigns that you saw, and we started from showing them online first before going to terrestrial TV, because we get a chance to hear from people. They clap back, and we get there, we feel their pulse, and we can do more. And in this instance also, we don't just say, oh, whatever we've done on terrestrial, just put it online. We actually go out of our way to prepare materials for online. And that is one of the things that is here. We all know the in-laws, and these are some of the things that we prepared for the in-law tutorials.
Big Daddy, sexy prince, I'm so fresh. What do you do to your silly social media junkie sister when every man that is 60 years and above starts sliding into your DM, asking to take your mother out on a date? Let me guess, you're asking yourself, what has Chuma got to do with our mom being in hot demand? Don't go anywhere. Let me show you. It's Titi, and today I'm going to teach you how to do my shaku swirl. Yup, you heard it right, shaku swirl. It's a blend of shaku and swirl, okay? So first, you take your leg, you open it up, bring it back, open it up, bring it back, open it up, bring it back. You're going to go down and up and repeat. Shall we try it out? I think we should. Moral of the story: never let your slave mama or for mom or slave queen of a sister team up on social media. Oh my goodness, even the millennials are asking for mama's Instagram handle. Yay! 1 million views? Mom, you've gone viral! Big Daddy.
So I'm wrapping up, and there's a very important way to look at this in terms of where we are and what we can achieve. To reassess our situation and see what this particular time demands of us and how we can make a difference in the lives of the brands in our care. I'm quoting from Bill Bernbach to end. He says, all of us who professionally use the mass media are the shapers of society. We can vulgarize that society, we can brutalize it, or we can help lift it onto a higher level. This man wrote this in the 60s. It's even more important today than back then. If you look at the multitude of platforms and opportunities that we have to engage with people, and the fact that you're competing with culture, like the other gentleman said, you're competing with influencers and other people, and brands, sometimes don't even know exactly what is best for them. And it is our job to be the one that, that guides them, a beacon to where, where we're headed. So for me, the question is not so much about the difference between writing as a well and copywriting, but it's knowing your role and what you need to do. And like I said earlier, the mantra for you should be going wherever the idea takes you. And you can go so far today, looking at where the world is. So thank you very much for your time. I think I've tried to 1 hour. Knowing that I started 15 minutes late, this is 11:13. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I think we learned quite a number of things, me, myself. And I think we can now take questions. Please, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat box, and so we can take them right away. No questions?
It was a lot to take, and there's so much that has been learned. I know that everybody has a lot of questions, but just being able to rephrase these questions for this legend, that it was an amazing class. I typically go in and out of these classes, but I was stuck on this all through. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I do have a lot of questions, but I feel like we should be talking one-on-one.
Yeah.
My only question at this point is, how can I come and carry your handbag, be your mentee? How can I follow you around for when you do pitches? I have a digital media agency, and I typically would say that Noah's Ark is the competition. Ha! Jesus. What lie have I been telling myself since? You guys are good. Amazing job. Well done. This was so good. So good. Yeah. I would probably send my questions in private, so that I can still hold on to my ego small. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. I think there are some questions on the chat in the chat box. I'll see.
Yes, there are a couple of them.
Some of them, maybe that will help.
Okay.
Or will you guide me?
Yes, I could take them, so I could easily.
I could read the questions, please.
So
I've started my work. I started my work. Bukayo, let me read the questions, please. Are you the mentee? The first question that I can see is from Kelvin Bob Manuel, also known as Oga Mistro. How can one measure the ROI of a copy, return on investment of a copy?
Okay. I'll be very frank with you. Again, I like to look at where we are today as an advantage. Somebody had a quote back then. He said, an advertiser, he had a chain of retail stores in the US. Can't remember his name. He said that I know that 50% of whatever I spend on advertising is a waste. The only problem is I don't know which 50%. That was back then. So when I look at traditional advertising, I throw it out there. A lot depends on, of course, I can do my research and say, what do I know about my audience? What can I say about myself? What are we trying to say? What is different? What is unique? All those things I can do. But at the end of the day, I trust my gut. I take a risk. That's what it is. And there's a place for that risk taking. Then I run the ad. And, sometimes you actually get 100% back. And I'll tell you why. When we ran the campaign, the Data is Life campaign for Airtel, I tell you for free. At that point in time, the data category or subcategory in telco was shrinking overall. But guess what? Airtel gained over 800,000 new data subscribers for that period of time, all thanks to the communication between the one I shared with you, Lost, and the other one with the gentleman on the boss. So it was, if you're looking for ROI, it doesn't get any better than that. Apart from, apart from data, voice people are close to 1 million or so. And we've seen this over and over and over for almost all of those campaigns that you see, because we can measure it easily in that instance. Now, the beauty of where you guys are is that digital allows for measuring of communication, the impact of communication. You have all sorts of tools, you know it better than me, that can help you measure. So in the world of where we are, it means that whatever it is that you do today, you must find a way of linking everything back to one another so you can still measure whatever you have. But good old traditional advertising is all down to guts. Of course, you can come back 6 months after the campaign or 6 weeks after the campaign and say, let us, do a link. Let us do a test of the campaign to see how effective it was. It will tell you what you have achieved. But just that I think it's faster and right real time with what obtains today in the digital space. So end of the day, there's a need for both worlds. There's a need for risk taking, because again, this is the problem. Big data with no big idea will lead you to a big waste, as far as I'm concerned. Because yes, I have the data, but how are you interpreting the data? And are you trusting your gut enough to say, let's take it somewhere here where nobody expects it to go? And it's only when you do that that you can actually, zag when everybody is zigging. And that's when you actually can make some good returns. So I hope that answers the question.
I hope it does too, because his follow-on question was, what are the metrics? But I think you've covered it. I just want to be able to address you appropriately. What animal are you in Noah's Ark, so that I can forward my questions with the appropriate address?
Well, I don't know. Well, I'm the cat, but everybody calls me LA, so just feel free to call me LA. That's it. Yeah. Okay.
So, yes. Another question is, what's a green? This is from Olalekan Rahim. He's asking, what's a greenhorn? What does a greenhorn need to get in the industry? And Ogamistro, I think I missed the question from Ogamistro where he asks, how do you know when to use a headline or long copy and a payoff line? How do you know when to use either? I think he means when to use a headline or long copy or a payoff line.
Yeah. So, like I said, okay, go on.
And then the next question is, what does a greenhorn
so
need to get in?
So I don't mix it up. So the first one is about the greenhorn thing.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking about the color of your horn, and we all start from somewhere. And I started, what is important is this. Who are you? What drives you? What are your experiences? What's your ambition about this? Actually, the greener you are, the better. So it means that you're coming with your mind untainted. And it's for you to dive in there and make a difference. But you must be driven by a bigger goal. You're not just looking for another job. You want to make a difference in the lives of brands around, because that's the power that we have. We hold a whole lot of power. And if I think back, and I'm sorry, I have to use the example of an Airtel again. I mean, Airtel has been around since 1991, if I'm not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
No, sorry, 2001. I'm sorry. Since 2001, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is quite a long time. When you look at what happened to the brand, a lot of challenges with ownership, name change, and all that. They were doing good business, no doubt about it. But as regards communicating and having a conversation with their audience, it was almost non-existent. They were always colorless and all that. The team came from where they were able to find their voice, with the campaign that I shared with you earlier. And even before that campaign, we had one or two things before then. And finding their voice made a difference. And that finding the voice was a change in terms of the thinking, the culture on the part of the agency and the client. And that is what we do. That is, it is so cost effective, but it takes people. So back to the greenhorn thing. It takes people. The people make the difference. What kind of person are you? What drives you? How hungry are you? And when you do, and how rich is your mind? By that I mean, are you just limiting yourself to what you see around you? Do you read? Do you follow things on the internet today? Because that is a bigger platform depending on what you use it for. Do you watch films? Do you go to the theater? Do you go to exhibitions? Do you, take like punch, taking as many things as possible. A friend of mine who owns an agency in Namibia says this is the repository of useless information. He will take on just about anything. That's the human mind can take on as many things as we pack in there, depending on the quality of what you pack in there. So that is not a problem. Of course, as a new person, you have to learn the ropes in one way or the other. What do I need to do? And it doesn't take too long to know. And when you know, you can break them. So I will link that to the other question about the headline, the copy, and the whatever. First is you need to know what is the job of the headline. And like Ogilvy told us, it's 80 cents of your $1. In terms of it's in a way, it packs all the information I want to leave you with. A good friend of mine, we were in the same agency when I started my career. He runs like a sponsorship and all that agency now. He was a copywriter back then. He wrote a line I'll never forget. It was a book that was published by the CLO. CLO is one of those NGOs, civil liberty organizations, actually. And it said something. It was a book about life in the prison and behind the wall. That was the title. And it said, "You should be jailed." That was the headline. You don't read this book. The only way you can know what happens in the prison is that you get jailed. Otherwise, you read this book. I mean, that is our job. And he was still very young in the business then. So it is what you need to do is to hone your power of imagination, and find your own way of expressing. You must be good with language. That's very important. You cannot motivate people if you cannot move them. And that's why, having a good knowledge, some of us started from writing, doing creative writing. I did creative writing in school, a couple of things like that. And because it allows you to understand how to use language, how to use diction, how to use all sorts of things. But your job is to use all of those things to promote a brand in this instance. That's why they call it commercial art, as opposed to literary writing and all that. So now when you know what the role of the headline is, headline is an attention grabber. Oh, it draws me in. I see what it is. Like that, the FCK thing, for instance, then the headline, the body copy builds on that. And it builds on it in a way that will still interest me. If it is just dull, I'll just skip and go on to the next thing. So I've grabbed your attention back to salesmanship. You've opened the door. So my first few seconds of telling you what I'm about is my body copy. So I find a way of engaging because I know you. I know the nature of your character. So I want to say things that will endear me to you. And once I get your attention, I now wrap it up with my tagline, which, almost like a summary of what I'm about. It's Nike, just do it. Because if you know where just do it coming from, saying, look, nobody is born an athlete. Everybody can move. As long as you can move your body, you're an athlete. So just do it. Don't wait. Don't procrastinate. So that is, and that payoff line, by the way, has been around for over 25 years or 30 years now. And that's the beauty. So it is a summation of the brand essence, what the brand stands for, and what the campaign is all about. And it is good if it is timeless, like the Nike example I just gave you. Then when you know all those things, you know how to use them. So if you go back to the Chasachi ad for the Ministry of Health information thing, it knew that it did not need the what's it called? The art direction in itself was an attention grabber. The white reverse on black was unusual for that time. So all it did was just to write everything as a body copy and, the food there in black and white. And if that doesn't get you covering your food after then something is wrong with your mind. That's the reality of it. So the only way you know that you can apply it, you can, Picasso said the same thing. When you look at Picasso's painting and all that, you wonder how he could do cubism, which, by the way, was inspired by his African art, but he knew the human anatomy. He could draw like any other person. It's only when you know that you can break it down. Good example again, Fela. Fela was playing, Fela went to music school in London. He was playing high life. He did all of those things. He knew all that. Then he got into the messaging of his music. Then he decided to say, I'm going to change the beat. I'm going to do so and so. Excuse me. When he did the double bass, most people would just do one bass and all that. He knew what he was trying to do, but he could only do that because he knew the rules of music, and breaking it was not a problem because he knew how to get around it. And that's the same thing that we do. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So just a bit of summary. In knowing what to do, you have to know the rules so that you can break it. And your headline is your 80 cents of your $1. And then, guys, when he said take a lot in and take it in, you're talking to digital marketers, so you have to be very specific. When he said take a lot in, he was talking about information. Okay. Okay, so Celestina Dr. C asked, what is the difference between website content writing and copywriting? I guess you already answered the question in the last.
Yeah, just look at that website. Just check it out. I mean, that is vintage copywriting. Give a shit for poop.
Okay.
I mean, that's it. So it means that, because look at it, how many websites exist out there? Why should I go to the last thing I want to go to is anybody's website, really? So the only way you can grab the is back to what I said earlier. Do something that will make me look for you. And when I saw that, I was like, who could have thought about this? So that's your challenge.
Yeah, there's an interesting question here from Temi Osunride. I probably didn't pronounce it right. He or she said, B2B brands have always found it difficult creating memorable and compelling art. How do you think B2B in Nigeria, especially in consulting, can create memorable campaigns? She's probably not talking about Betway, but
Yeah, I know. This is
yeah. I'm just throwing shots there by force by fire.
Well, I think the thing is first and foremost to look at your industry. That's the starting point, really. Take an inventory of what exists. How are people doing it? I mean, there's a reason why TBWA people came up with the concept of disruption, which is saying that, for every category, there are different conventions. There are different kinds of conventions. I mean, back in those days, and I still see that once in a while on TV in Nigeria, every bank ad will have people showing their graphs, people shaking hands, talking about their assets and all that. Come on, I mean, I'm not interested in your asset as a customer. I mean, when you're talking to your shareholders and talking to other people, maybe that will interest them. You understand what I'm saying? So it is for you to be able to, and what do they do with disruption? They say, look at the conventions. What are the conventions that govern that category, right? Now, ask yourself, where do I want to be? What do I want to do? Why do I want to take my brand, right? So I have a vision of where I'm headed. And when I know a vision that is big, hairy, and scary, that vision is what will drive me to find the idea that will take me there. So as a B2B person, it might even be, even if I'm going to send an email, what kind of email am I going to send? What will be the subject matter? If I'm going to send, I might probably need to go into more like a bit of direct marketing where I need to send some collaterals. For instance, there was something that was done for the All Blacks, the New Zealand rugby team, and what they did was to use the blood. Imagine that, of all the players, and derive some ink out of it, and they printed some posters out of it and all that. When you know the story behind that and you send that to somebody, it's like we don't just have skin in the game. We have our blood in it. This is what we stand for. So there must be a concept driving what you do, even though the audience is different. The audience is not the general public. What do I know about the people I'm sending this particular material to, I'm trying to reach out to? If they are into fishing, for instance, do I send this like a sun fishing rod or something, and that's where the message is? If they're into whatever it is that they're into, what element, if they're into art, if they're into so and so, what I know will determine how I relate with them. Then they will take me serious. I want to see those guys. I want to listen to them. But if you just do what any other person does, it will be seen by the PA who will keep it somewhere. Yeah.
Sorry, there are a couple of questions. I don't know that you can take all of them, but can I just run through a couple of them? And then...
I don't know when we're ending this, so that will determine how many questions I can take.
Okay. I think you already answered Thelma's question where she was asking, does copywriting for blog differ from writing for social media?
No.
Yeah. Then Kolakwa said most of these types are more, I don't know what types he's referring to. Are more or consumer products or services. How can someone apply this to software tools? Is the focus on the audience or the story? Because some of the samples seem tricky. I'm not sure if he's talking about some of the samples that you put. Kolakwa, please, can you just re-ask your question so that I can take it again? Memuna, are there courses to be taken to get better at this? I think you already answered that. Yvonne said, when a great copy spikes engagement, it also rubs off on PR for the brand. Is this a joint effort between the agency advertising agency and PR agency, or is it done alone by just the advertising agency, I guess?
That's a very good question, I must tell you. If you look at CAM, for instance, I think it was only a year or two ago that the Grand Prix for PR went to a PR agency. Interesting, huh? Now, what it means is this. If you do great work, what does it do eventually? It helps your reputation. I mean, look at Airtel today. I don't think, apart from, they engage in a few things, some initiatives, something about touching hearts and all those things, touching lives. But beyond that, the respect, the reputation that the brand has today is actually coming from where? From the communication. So there is a collateral gain when the communication is right, just as there can be a collateral damage also when it is wrong. But it works better also when you work with partners. So you may have an idea, and that idea on its own will work very well for what you're doing. But you might find a way of working with PR agencies to amplify what you're doing, and that way you gain more as opposed to just leaving it to chance. So yes, collaboration does work, but sometimes also you might just be the creative agency that does it. Adidas did something probably in 2005 or thereabout, or 6, where they had this football thing it was during an Olympics game, and they had a football game being played in the air, like this skyscraper somewhere in Japan, and people were playing football, kicking the ball. It was so huge that it grabbed people's attention and went around the world. And that was a big PR thing as well. Of course, I'm sure they'll still work with a PR agency along the line, but that's the kind of thing. Start with a big idea, then find partners along the way. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to do 3 more questions because I see it's 11:34. I'm going to do 3 more questions, and then if you still have time, we can take it from there. Memuna's question and Onyinye Opalago's question are the same. How does one transition from a content writer to a copywriter? Although Onyinye added another line requesting that when does your agency open up for copywriting interns? And then so there's the transition question. How does one transition from a content writer to a copywriter? And then Tunde Sule asked the personal question. What was your biggest feel? Chooks, can you mute your mic, please? Chinedu, Tunde Sule asked the personal question. He asked, as a young creative, what was your biggest fail and how did you leverage on it for a successful career? So there are 2 questions.
Okay. I mean, it's the same Tunde.
Yeah, there are two questions to this. The first one is how does one transition from a content writer to a copywriter?
Okay.
And then the second one is
I think the starting point is my biggest fail. Now I think the starting point is the mentality. So there's nothing in terms of the reality of what you do day to day. Of course, the copywriter probably will take on more of engaging with people. You're writing on behalf of this and that. So I think the thing is to look at the context of what you do and apply the principle of what can be different, what is of that, and the mentality perhaps of the copywriter as defined, as we have done now. Then maybe what you do, look for instance at the Starbucks thing I shared for Twitter. I guess part of what you do will be in that world as well. I'm not saying how to be, can we keep it? You need wit, whatever you do really. You need to be smart about it. You need to engage, you need to excite people, you need to look at what can I do to elicit response. How can they clap back? How can it just be one thing? And because again, part of what will happen is in doing what you do, I want to believe that perhaps also community management will fall into what you do. People can be nasty, people can be anything. How can you be witty, how can you be smart and get it back to them? If you don't have all those in you, then you will struggle a little bit. But I also encourage you, whatever you do now, take interest in copywriting. You know, take interest in what has been done by other people and all that. And I mean, the beauty of today's world is that everything is out there. You can go out there and start developing yourself. And you never can tell when you need it and where you need it. And if there's an opportunity, so that from what you see as your content, it can generate other things. It may even not be that you write it. You may just have an idea, oh, I have this thinking. And you might find other people within your team who can develop it for you and make it bigger. So I'll say what matters most is, you know, the mentality that you apply to it and the context to determine how you express yourself. Because what is important also is the fact that, I mean, in your own case, you might probably deal more with facts, while the copywriter, we also deal with facts, but use more of imagination to arrive at the solution. But find a way of expressing yourself in a way that will grab people's attention. In terms
the second
of
question about your fail.
The biggest fail. That's fail as a young writer and how I went around that. I'm thinking actually, okay, actually very early. It wasn't a big fail in this case. It was a big lesson from a small brief or campaign, as the case may be. Cadbury, if I'm not wrong, maybe the year started actually in 1990 or so, and Cadbury was celebrating its 25th anniversary, and we ran an ad for them. We're going to have like a discourse, and I had a headline that said talking about tomorrow, and for some reason I missed one M. So sorry, how do you write it now? No, it became a double M, tomorrow. So there was a big lesson there about proofreading, which is a problem today, which has been worsened by social media and text messaging. That you have to be mindful of what you write and how you write. And guess what? It was so bad that the chairman of the agency, the great Biodun Shobanjo, came to know, to MCNA then. I was like, who did this? Who wrote this? And was right. And I learned a big lesson that day about, being careful about after you've written it, proofread it and get it done. And those things back then were done manually to a large degree, as opposed to where things are now. You have to do your proof, you have to do your promo, you have to do so and so. But it is it's a lesson I learned very early, and it has stayed with me. I mean, I'm very bad. I'm very impatient with people. When you mess up, Shokeni can tell you what my attitude to people not being mindful of what they write. I do that not just to my people. I mean, if you're a brand and you send me any material and I see a mistake, I might just switch off and do something else. I mean, that's how bad it is. It was a big lesson from a very small thing, among other things. But let's talk about something even in the present. As an agency now, not just me, we shot a campaign for a Ramadan thing for Indomie. And the problem was that it was a fairly good script, not necessarily great. But in executing it, on occasion, the clients, started interfering with the direction, and they became directors. There were too many directors on set, and the output, wasn't so great. So the client felt like it didn't have soul and all that. So we struggled with it for a long time. So for that year, we couldn't run a Ramadan material because it was a fail on our part. So what did we do? We tried to rescue it as much as we could. But when we couldn't do that, we resorted to one thing. And that's again, this is a message for everybody. Sometimes you have to bite the bullet and take a risk. So we told ourselves, we knew what the problem was. But if you needed a brief at all, the brief was from their boss who said they did not have a soul. So we knew that we needed to do something that will have soul. And in doing something that will have soul, we said to ourselves, we will not go back to the client to rebrief us. We will write a new script. We will not go back to the client to approve the script. will not go to the client to also pay us to shoot it. So I told you earlier that we have a production company called Underdog Productions. So we wrote the script. We did our best to think that, hey, this, we can feel it. We think this is what we need to do. And we shot it. And after doing that, we went to the client and presented to him. And just not everybody else, but just the man that would take decision, himself and his assistant. And it was a risk that was worth it. They bought into it. They ran it that year and even the year after that. I'm sure some of you. And we didn't stop at just TV. We also created radio and outdoor, and print ads and all that. So it was a big lesson, but I think we bounced back from it strong. Excuse me.
Thank you so much. That was really good. If I may continue, if I don't ask this question, Olushola Oladimeji might beat me up on the streets. So I really have to ask it. He said, music has been a key theme that resonates with most ads, especially from your agency.
So maybe
how do you
I'm hearing my voice, and I think
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
He said, music has been a key thing that resonates with most ads, especially from your agency, sir. How do you decide the direction of your music and lacing it up with the brand storytelling?
Okay, that's a...
Oh, I hope you heard. Can you guys hear me? Is it me?
You can't hear me?
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Okay, no.
But I can't.
So I was saying that all
please go on,
around the world, music has always been a great tool. Music has always been a great tool for advertising. Because remember, we need to touch we need to touch them and have a space in their hearts. And nothing does that as great as music, or sound, as the case may be. So that's why in production also there's what they call sound design. So sometimes it might be music, might be something else entirely. Music has been known, advertising has been known to bring back some old, songs and bring them back to the top 10 charts, as it was done for Levi's and 1 or 2 million songs that they used. So that is what we've tried to do over time. Now, what we do, as a matter of fact, we don't actually write the commercials with a particular music in mind, and that's what people may find interesting. We write the story, and we look at what best will work for this. And we now brief the music guys to score to the story. We got lucky with the Lost commercial. If you look at the Lost commercial and look at the music that we used for commercial, you will think the music was made for the commercial. But that's not the case. We actually wrote it, and we actually had something else in mind. And it was only after shooting that we were like, okay, this, that. And we looked at that particular song, and I said, wow, every bit of it, everything we shot just fell in place. And that was it. It even made the song a bit more popular. So, sorry, I've had a voice thing. I've run out of water, so just bear with me. It's clear my throat. Excuse me. So music is that important, and is a good way to break through the ice and get people, the problem with our industry is that people make jingles all the time, and expect people to just follow. They know you're selling to them. The music should be good enough, like in the case of Gele. I went to somebody's party, birthday party, and that was what they were playing. And I was told that even in some nightclubs, they were playing it back then. That is when you become part of the culture. Since you're competing with culture anyway, why not enrich the culture with what you do, rather than leave it to chance? So music is crucial, but not music just for the sake of music, music that helps to push the story forward. If it's not doing that, then it's of no use, if you ask me. People remember the music and they forget the message. You don't want to do that.
Thank you so much, sir. Do you have time for a couple more questions?
Yeah.
I do have to ask this, though.
I think if I can stop here, I wouldn't mind.
One last question, because it was asked by somebody from my agency, so that they won't say that they won't from work, sir. Please, my salary is important. how do you
Okay.
sell with every copy, especially if you're a social media person, right? And what you've talked about mostly is about copywriting and then content. How do you translate all of this information that you just talked about for social? Because you're writing captions, you're literally just putting a picture and writing a caption that should do all of these things that great copywriting with headlines and everything does. How do you sell for social? How do you write for social? That's the last question. How do you sell with every copy?
Yeah. Well, if you ask me, and I think the best example I can give you is to go back to the case for, say, Hypo, for instance. And that was social, not so. So it starts with the thinking, right? Every other thing will evolve from it. What did we want to do? It is Valentine's. People are thinking of chocolate and flowers and laundry and all sorts of things. They're not thinking of bleach, for God's sake. So if you start from that point of view, how can I be the one that people will talk about? What will excite them for them to do that? So that was what led to the thinking of what if? You should ask a lot of what if questions. What if we did this? Because again, we know our audience, we know what will excite them subject-wise. So let's throw in something there that can call for some comment. Social feed some controversy or some scandal or something. People are bored with real life. They want something that will excite them. So that's where you start from. And when you start from there, let's take on a taboo. Will you want to wash your girlfriend's underwear? I mean, any Nigerian will flare up for that. Any Nigerian will talk about that. That will grab anybody's attention. Then every other thing can follow from there. For me, that's the best way I can explain. More power than that poor copywriter trying to do a press ad. Because it's not all press ads that will achieve what FCK did, for KFC. You understand what I'm saying? So to me, the ball is actually in your court.
Yes, sir.
But social is that, for instance, social, yeah.
Thank you so much. You have been amazing. Bukayo, so just as a side note to all the Noah's Ark people here, I will resume work on Monday. So I'll see you guys at the office on Monday. I will. Bukayo, you can take over.
No problem. Welcome.
Thank you so much. This was an amazing session. Bukayo, over to you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bukayo.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Is he there?
Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Ele. Even me, my own, in terms of taking in some a lot of things and in consideration when I'm doing some work in terms of think different, think vertical and no longer horizontal kind of thing. And yes, so I'll say a very big thank you to you, sir. I think a lot of people still have a couple of questions, but if it's fine by you, we could just send it to you by email later and maybe get it in like a week or two today.
No problem.
That's much more. Okay. So please, if you have questions like I put in the chat box, please send your questions to hello@digiclan.africa, hello@digiclan.africa. And if you would like to join the community, I also dropped the registration link in the chat box. It's totally free, and it's digiclan.africa/registration. I also dropped a survey. We're trying to understand what you go through in terms of both an employee and an employer. It will only take a minute for you to take the survey as well. Thank you, sir, so much. And we'll end the masterclass.
I'm sorry, Bukayo, I'm doing this again. I don't know if I could please talk a little bit about DigiClan and the community, because I see a lot of non-DigiClan people here. And this is an opportunity to talk about the community and the reason for the community. If that's okay, I only take 1 minute.
Okay.
Okay, so DigiClan is a community of experts, people who are interested, or people who just love digital marketing and marketing as a whole, whether it's SEO or content or social media management or community management. We're built on the principle of Ubuntu. I am who I am because of who you are. You know, we're built on that principle that together we can grow the community or we can grow the industry. So if I know A and you know B and somebody else knows C, if we all learn from each other, we'll all know A, B, C, and then we can grow and improve the industry. So DigiClan is built on the principle of Ubuntu as a way to improve the individual and improve the industry. And we always, you know, talk about digital marketing or talk about marketing, and everybody learns from everybody. And I hope that you guys who are not members of the community but are interested in joining should please reach out to DigiClan Africa, either on social media or via the message box, and join the community so that we can all learn from each other and all grow together. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Bye
Okay
then.
then. Bye.
Thank you.
Enjoy your weekend. Have a great career. Bye.